Well, good evening. We will start this meeting of the Cumberland County Finance Committee at 5:05 on Tuesday, February 20th, 2024. My name is Chair Dustin Ward, Select Board member out in New Gloucester. We'll do some quick introductions, just who's in the room, starting to my left.
Paul Turok from the Select Board in Bridgeton.
Steve Gordon, District 3, Cumberland County.
Tracy Ferber, Finance Director.
Alex Kimball, Deputy County Manager.
Jim Gailey, County Manager.
Commissioner Watonis for District 2.
Bob Vale, Finance, Cumberland Town Council.
Excellent. Well, thank you all for coming back. We'll do a quick approval of our January 30, 2024 minutes. I know those went out before our meeting today, so I'll take a motion to approve those minutes.
Move to approve January 30th, 2024 minutes.
Second.
Motion by Paul, second by Bob. Any discussion? All those in favor? All right, those have been unanimously approved. Any public comment for this evening?
We have received none.
Excellent. All right. Final thing is to wrap up our budget proceedings after a great conversation that we had last time, and I want to thank all of those departments who came out and have spoken to us, gracious for their information. Here's an opportunity to sort of get some last-minute conversations, but before we sort of jump in, I understand that we've sort of been presented with some final wrap-up information, a renegotiation of the numbers, so I'd really throw it back to you and walk us through what we have here.
Absolutely. As we left the last meeting, it was clear that there was a couple of things that were hanging, and that we needed to go back to the budget to see whether we could take another look at the revenues now that we're 2 or 3 months into the budget season, since we hadn't looked at them since October, November. And we slightly adjusted revenues. The parking garage, we felt as though we could go up $15,000 in daily fees from how we're tracking this year. So we made that adjustment. And that's really the only revenue that we had that we felt comfortable that we could move the needle on with this budget. We also had a few items that we needed to find money. I think the last meeting that we had was with the sheriff, talking the jail and the sheriff's office patrol. And you heard me at the beginning of that meeting announce that we had done a relook at current pricing for patrol vehicles. And we felt as though I felt as though I might have cut a little too much on that line, and we needed to adjust that back up. And at that meeting, I said we needed to adjust about $5,000 per car. There are 8 cars in the budget, so $40,000 change to that. So those were the 2 items that we had coming out of the last meeting. This evening, I want to bring to your attention that we have 3 other items that we have adjusted in this budget. And you'll have the budget in front of you, I see you do, and we've highlighted the lines that we've adjusted. And I'll just go down through those highlighted lines. The first is the Emergency Management Agency. You're probably saying, why are you adjusting them? They're already -1% increase. We actually had a recent retirement, a long-term employee retire, and we took a look at that on what that individual was making versus what we would hire the person's replacement for. With salary and benefits associated, we felt as though there was about a $32,000 change there. Some pretty significant. That's some good money there. So we have deducted that out of the emergency management budget. Keeping going down, the sheriff's law enforcement, that item is highlighted because that's where the $40,000 was increased for patrol vehicles. Continuing down through, and this is a conversation that Teresa, Alex, and I had this morning concerning the TAN. I think this group has been with us now 3 years. You heard a lot about the benefits of why we changed from a calendar year to a fiscal year budget, was to get rid of this TAN. Well, we're moving in a quicker fashion than we originally anticipated. We had a lot of communities paid right up front. we've had a slug of communities that have chosen the 5-year plan also, but we had some communities that had some substantial tax payments with us, or warrant payments, pay right up front. And that has allowed us to have a good jumpstart to this elimination of the TAN. In doing so, we felt as though we could reduce that TAN down another $40,000 from where the original budget had set it. So we went from 121,000 down to 81,000. Continuing to move down, you saw in your packets this weekend, when I sent it out on Saturday, and you may remember, over the last, we were trying to remember what vote we took on it, whether it was in 23 or 22, where the state had a citizen initiative for Maine paid family medical leave. And that really came on our radar admittedly late, that, you know, we're still training ourselves that we're on a July to June and not a December to January budget. And we said, uh-oh, January 2025 is at the 6-month period of this budget that we're working on. We need to account for something. And so Alex did a lot of work on figuring out what the current legislation reads. He drafted up this quick white paper to give you kind of a snapshot. And by all means, please share this with your manager, because I think that the towns, we haven't been talking about it with the towns, or the circles that I've been running with the town managers, we haven't been talking about it. So it might catch a lot of us off guard that payments are starting in January of 2025. But we felt as though we needed to kind of do the best back of napkin with the legislation that was voted on. Granted, we're, over the next 10 months, there's supposed to be rulemaking around how this is actually gonna work. That's gonna be very interesting to see how this is actually gonna be structured, but we're doing kind of worst-case back of napkin on this number. And we felt as though that a $60,000 increase in the taxes was needed to cover the county's liability. That's $60,000 on the county side, and then the staff unfortunately would be paying the other half of that. So it's a shared 50-50 with staff and the county. So we increased that $60,000. And so between those 5 items, we have modified, I shouldn't say manipulate, but modified this budget to the point that we have gone from a 4.86 budget to a 4.89 budget. So a lot of movement parts, pluses and minuses, and just a slight creep northward in the percentage of need from taxes. So at this point, that is what I have for a presentation of changes to the budget. I do appreciate the Finance Committee's work over the last couple of meetings, and meeting with the EMA department, the Communications department, Cross Insurance Arena, who's doing gangbusters this year. Fingers crossed, that got another 4 months, and then the Sheriff's Office. So I think we had a good spattery of departments coming in and presenting and giving you a good insight of what they're dealing with on a daily and yearly basis. So, thank you.
Thank you. No, I absolutely appreciate it, and it's helpful to sort of walk through it. For the committee, questions on what you've heard as sort of updates? And we'll do just overall questions. But questions on any of the updates that you've had? Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
Just one. Alex or Jim, on the tax anticipation note there, is there, I know that in Cumberland, we always had one, and now we don't. Finally have got enough revenue on the other, in the plus side to provide a cushion for us. Is there a way for us to do that similarly, or are we constrained by having, phrase is escaping me, but revenue balance carryover that we can apply towards those things?
Sure. So the odd thing about the county, what makes it really different from a municipality, is it was never really a fund balance issue for the county. It was a timing issue. And the way it worked for the county was that our budget year would start January 1st, but we wouldn't actually get taxes until all the way late in the fall. Some people would pay September 1st, others would go all the way up to the bitter end, October 31st. So we would be anywhere from 8 to 10 months into the budget before we actually got our money. So just picture a town that typically does 2 payments, right? Well, picture it, oh, nope, you can't do 2 payments, you can only do 1 payment, and it has to be in the second half of the year. Good luck with your cash flow. And that's where we were. So when we switched from our year starting July 1st, it meant that our taxes were coming in at the 3-month mark rather than the 9-month mark. This is occurring because that point in time at which municipalities are required to pay in the taxes to the county, that's fixed in stone by state statute. So we can't move that date. We have to sort of shift accordingly. Of course, for us, for a million other reasons, fiscal year made more sense, given that cross-insurance arena and the jail were already forced onto a fiscal year anyways. So it's not so much a fund balance increase, although our fund balance has done better, so that's helped us a little bit. But mostly it's a timing thing for the fiscal year shift.
So town of Cumberland pays the school 12 times a year.
Yes.
Is there a benefit for the county to negotiate with the towns and say, look, we'd like a monthly payment, we'd like you to divide this by 12?
Prior to a few years ago, it would have been enormously helpful, but we don't need it as much anymore now because of the fiscal year shift. It might have been a bit of a tough sell, though, because that state statute and that mechanism that's used for the payments is very, very set in stone. So there's not a lot of leeway there. So we might have been able to get some towns to agree to it, but it also would have caused some troubles for them because think about the way that most towns are. Most of them commit their taxes, say, in August in order to get those tax bills out in September, and it's usually a little bit of a race against the clock to get those fall tax bills out in a timely fashion. So they wouldn't have any more cash to pay us, say, in July anyways. So it's just trying to work within the way everything sort of connected up. And that's why we went with the fiscal. It was easier for us and easier for everyone else if we simply moved our whole year, keeping that other piece fixed in time.
Other questions? I have 2. One is just to wrap my head around the timing of the family medical leave. Because it's coming in on that end of the 6-month period, when July hits, as you build for that previous year, you're also going to plan another 60, or you're going to have to track and say, what did it actually cost us? How are you going to differentiate what that line then becomes?
That's a really great question. It really, really, really depends on, I'm just working through the timing here.
Yeah.
For the 25-26 budget year, we will at the very least know what rulemaking spits back at us.
Okay.
So we will know what areas for wages are to be included, what are not to be included. Are there employees who are excluded? Basic stuff like, is overtime going to be part of this? Yes, no, that's a huge swing.
Yeah.
Is it 0.5 and 0.5 adding up to 1, or is it 0.43 and 0.43 adding up to 0.86? Also a pretty big swing there. So what gets included, what doesn't get included? And yes, there's the possibility the whole thing gets pushed back in time because of the absolutely gargantuan lift that this is going to take to create a giant state program from scratch. That's honestly where, for me, it's looking at something that's going to dwarf, say, state of Maine unemployment in terms of size and complexity. So, yeah, we'll keep going as we go, and we hope to have a much better sense. But this is truly just us taking that 0.5% of all budgeted salaries, cut in half for half a year. So when we say back of the napkin, we'd go deeper if we knew more about the rules to do so, but we don't, so that's where we are. It's a tough thing for, everyone's gonna struggle with this budgeting, I think.
Yeah, and it comes in odd in terms of how we all structure our fiscal year versus that calendar year start date, so, yeah.
I think it might have landed on us a little surprised because we're a little ahead of everyone else for the budget, right? Like, we were, like, I think there's gonna be a giant swell of people in the next month or two going. So,
No, thank you, that's helpful just to wrap our heads around it. Any other thoughts, questions, overall questions? Comments?
An overall question, I got an email through my town email from a car dealer in Ohio. Maybe you guys got it too, but he says, you guys looking for any police vehicles? And he listed off, a whole bunch of things. And I didn't respond to him because I wanted to talk to my manager, but anyways, the question is, is it the procurement of the car, or is it the additional work after the procurement of the car that is the log jam?
Procurement, if you want to consider that the procurement, it's the ordering of the car and the delivery of the car is the logjam. It could be a year plus. They're getting quicker, but that's only because now the Tahoe has come out. So it's kind of distributed the orders a little bit, but we're still waiting for what cars we ordered in April of '23.
yes, I start to lose track after a while. I think, yeah, I don't think those are coming at all, because we've only just recently
And
gotten the ones from
The most recent ones
2022.
that are down in Massachusetts being fit up right now, that are trickling up here, those came, I believe, in October, November, and they were ordered in '22.
So is this just a regional problem, or is this a country problem?
The country's problem.
Country problem.
Is it related to chips? Like the chip manufacturing, when you set up the car,
Yes.
they're so technology laden.
Yes,
that using chip.
yep, big part of it, and specialty orders, yeah.
Because then once you get them, they're retrofit as they're being built, or you have to get them as is and then you retrofit them.
We retrofit them afterwards.
Afterwards.
Like the cages
Yeah,
and the
'cause that's a-
laptop stands and
That's a
light
separate
bars.
process, basically, yeah, so it adds more time to that.
It's a pretty specific set of requirements, for the stuff, the suspension, the engine, sizing and everything else like that. But at the end of the day, it's pretty, kind of the shell of the vehicle that you get and then go from there.
There, yeah.
Particularly nowadays, they're all so customized and different.
Other thoughts, questions? Well, with none, I think you all have really helped us out along the way. I really appreciate the work that you've all done to get this, it's manageable with all the things to balance. So, I don't think there's any massive comments or recommendations that we have, except we appreciate your work and had an enjoyable time trying to help you all. So, if there's any other thoughts, this might be the end of the road for all three of us, so.
Well, I will say this, I will throw my name back into the ring for another year, because I'm just now becoming comfortable with understanding the budget. And I think, part of, I spent 15 years on the school board, just because I was too stubborn to get off, but there's a lot to be said for institutional knowledge and having people that have some understanding of what's going on, and I think it's important that, that what little knowledge that I've gained, at least, if we have a new group of faces up here next year, or additional faces, hopefully, we'll be able to share some of that knowledge, so.
I hope we can get some additional faces. I'd be happy to come back next year, but I'm happy to be joined by some additional faces as well.
Yeah.
If there's one area I say I'm still trying to grasp, and I know everyone is still trying to grasp, is the whole jail situation and what the sort of long-term projections are for the jail. And maybe if I don't know what that more material would be that would necessarily make that clear, as much as as much as a thought as to what the priorities of the jail are in terms of occupancy, in terms of revenues from federal prison, some conclusions around exactly what the jail should look like.
We join you with that wish, because it's a moving target for us. You're absolutely right. The federal inmates, they come in, they're not coming, how many? If they come, the state funding to help us offset the local tax dollars going into the jail, and then the level of inmates that we have down at the jail. This morning, there was 249. 3 weeks ago, it was 230. So we got 19 more in just a few weeks. But that could dip as quickly as this weekend.
It was a long weekend.
So there's only so much visioning and planning you can do with regard to the jail because the numbers move so much. You basically have to snapshot it multiple times to even have a trajectory. It's not like a
And we
strategic
know
plan you can build.
Salaries and benefits are constantly going up.
Mhm.
Food costs are going up.
Yep.
Medical costs are going up, and those are the three large drivers of that budget.
And I think for us, we try to budget around normal operations, but the jail hasn't been in normal operations for a long time now. And that's the real struggle here, is do you budget for abnormal operations or normal? And it's a tough one to wrap our heads around. So that's why we're always trying to do our best.
Final thought, if we were to somehow make sure we try to get more people, more voices to this table, what's the best way to go about doing it? Because we started strong and we've carried it, but I do think that moving forward with these types of questions, it's good to have more voices. So what's the best way to sort of help with that?
I'll share my opinion on, I think, the stumbling block for some to join this board. And it was really piecing together the dates that we could meet. I think it impacted us last year to the point that we couldn't find a quorum to get that last meeting. And this year, it actually took me getting onto each of your town council calendars on your websites and kind of creating this matrix on when I could sneak a meeting in here and there. That's how we did it, because there's a lot of times it used to be everyone met on Monday night or everyone met on Wednesday nights. Now it's really the 28 towns across the county. It could be Monday through Thursday at this point. And then there's other obligations in terms of committee work that some councilors or select board members have. It's a very tough nut to try to find those exact dates. That's why I was kind of pushing you into a Saturday morning.
That's why I pushed back, and I said no.
We used to do that at the South Portland City Council
Oh,
years ago.
Yeah.
And we used to bang out 3 meetings on a Saturday morning and be done with it. But, no, I think that's a stumbling block. Just people want to, but then they're like, when do you meet? We meet Wednesdays. I got select board meeting Wednesday, so. But we'll try, because I think we hear you loud and clear. It is very beneficial to have more than less in this process.
Yeah.
Let's flip it around. What do you think we could do that would make it easier for you to get more people here? And is it got anything to do with the presentation format or anything like that, or is it no?
I mean, I'll let these two answer first, and I'll give you my perspective, but go ahead.
I think if the county reaches out to the town manager and the council chairman and said, please assign somebody, and maybe, when I first went on the council, Bill Stiles, he came up to me and says, we need a volunteer and you're it.
Excellent recruiting technique.
Anyways, and I was young and dumb, as they say, so, yeah, okay.
Thoughts, Paul?
Well, I don't know, I mean, one thought, depending on people's availability, would be to do, and it's painful, but is to do like a full-day session. We go through all soup to nuts through the budget. People present their department, or the departments that we need to hear from. And, you know, it's a 9 to 5 type of day. And that might be a way that then people feel, well, I only gotta really make, you know, one really upfront commitment, and then the next one after that is just resolve and wrap up.
So the combination of the two thoughts is pretty much where I land too. There's a piece of it where we, as members who've been elected, who've been doing this, need to share what the value of doing this is. But I think there's this ideal, and it should be more of a shift, where the town manager begins to work with select board members and to actually make this committee as a standing, vital part of what the expectation is as being a select board member or counselor. Because for me, I take it more of as, this is part of my assignment, it's part of my job duties. When you have that mentality, you take it more serious. And then, to your point, I think, you know, if you don't have the flexibility in the schedule, doing it on one day is nice. The tough thing is, you've got someone who has a family. Saturdays are, you know, coveted in my home. So I'd rather spend my time during the week, because that's usually where I commit. Others are gonna be completely different. So I think finding that one day, way out in advance, and just holding it, probably would end up getting more people say, yeah, I only have to make that one commitment the whole year, and I've done my finance committee work. But we've got to do a better job of talking about the value of what we do here and showing how much our voice does matter in the way in which things move and shape. So, and it also has helped that we're not on Zoom. That has been a huge help. I mean, as much as I loved doing Zoom the first 2 years, at some point, being in person helped sort of navigate the complexities. So there is that piece.
I wondered how it was as a committee member having a budget meeting over Zoom. It sounds like it was not the best platform.
It was necessary at the time, right? The context denoted what we needed to do. If you try to do that now, I think people have been so zoomed out, they would actually not do it. They would rather be in person. And that's just because of the context we're in. So I personally like doing this, but because of how busy a lot of our schedules are, 4 meetings. I was lucky enough to do 4 meetings that fit for us. But yeah, if you do 1 meeting in person, I think you'll find people are willing to commit to that. It's not a heavy lift. So, those are our thoughts. Anything else, friends? Good. Well, I
Could
think
we
we should
get a motion,
to send this over to the.
send this to the commissioners?
Absolutely. I'll take a motion to send this budget and its recommendations to the commissioners.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Paul, seconded by Bob. All those, take a vote. All those in favor? Vote is unanimous. Thank you as always. Appreciate it. Good luck the rest of the way with this. And we look forward to the next time we interact with one another. But it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure to both you, Paul, and you as well, Bob.
You may be headed to Augusta.
You might take, not to take up airtime to say that, but if I don't see you, I will see you on a different.
And the next day, you guys will be in your new digs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hopefully.
yeah, we might be in between. It all depends on how fast we can get the contractor moving. We're estimating this time next year.
Okay. That's exciting. Yeah.
We won't have construction drawings until the end of May, unfortunately, so that's the delay.
But we could have the meeting rooms done ahead of everything
Yeah,
else.
meetings room done.
Yeah.
That's exciting. That's impressive. There you go.
Well, as staff and on behalf of the commissioners, I just want to thank you three for your time that you've committed to this process. It's been great working with you.
Yeah.
You know, I hear Bob loud and clear. Having people that know and have learned the budget and having that institutional knowledge really makes it easy on us. And so I think this process has become stronger over the last 3 years. And I appreciate all your time commitments and your challenging questions that you have for us. We look forward to it, actually. So thank you very much for your time.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you all. We'll adjourn then at 5:32 p.m. Have a good one.
I can make my next meeting.
Sorry, I couldn't swing that.
6:30.